Hey everybody, it's your boy Tony Ortiz here, back again with another This Week in Brave Exvius for February 15th, 2023. And we've got another pretty slow week here. Um, Final Fantasy V has returned, even though it took a week off. Normally we get those back to back, but as of late, we've been seeing some of them being broken up. Final Fantasy VII famously broken up by, I think, 2 holiday weeks this year, or even maybe 3, um, from December into January. But here we are, we're back again with Final Fantasy V. We get the other half of the units that came from JP, and we got a free unit this time. So you're going to get Kelgar here. If you went ahead and go do his little fights, and you also are in the unique situation to go ahead and farm up all of his stats to maximum. So you get a free set of pots for getting all the way his other missions. There's like 8 of them, and then you also get the ability to farm his fragments as well. So you can get them all the way to EX3, and you'll have these little fix pots as we did with Reno, as we did with Sunin, and some other units that have come before him. Same thing here. It doesn't do a whole lot different for you. He makes some of the farming a little bit easier, for his own fragments and stuff like that, with his LB, and he makes some of the one-off fights from Final Fantasy V this week a little bit easier if you bring him, because they are much more weak to physical than magic. So dropping meteor, well, not physical, but attack based attacks as opposed to magic based. Um, it is what it is. You can still do it though with X Death here, um, but he makes it really easy. So I'm really not going to talk too much more about him or the fights, as they're all pretty basic. There's not really anything to write home about there. So let's just take a quick look at Gilgamesh. And here he is. He basically came solo. I think there's one more. Hold on a second. Take a look here. But as we take a look at him, he's got this debuffer tag. And just not really much to write home about here. Absolute Mirror of Equity. The Chaining family is coming back, but it's not really back yet in global. We're going to need leader skills and some other stuff to be able to make that actually happen. He does have these other families, though, so if you want to take him into stuff. And Chained, it's not as difficult, although we on global have a lot of cards that solve that issue for you, and a lot of materia, so you can give him EN or Bolting Strike. Anyway, he does have this, for whatever reason, 85 break for a Magnus, and then he also has some dark damage boosts. This is really gonna fall off though as soon as we get Deosis and all that. He's got some good built-in killers, but of course also they're trying to make dual wield happen on global without actually fixing the variants, and that's just not going to happen. But at least he comes with this 100% and 200% to a double hand, so you're going to want to go double hand with him anyway. And he's got some of this built-in tank stuff. The draw attack boost doesn't matter because we all have Dancer Crown, but he does come in with innate invasion. Just not really doing anything, just a bag of nothing. He looks cool. That's about it. And yeah, that's it. That's all that we got. So there you go. We'll quickly touch on DV again, as we talked about it already last week. But I have dipped below the top 500. I'm probably going to dip below 600. There are a majillion cheaters, of course, on the ranking. So if you go over here, you click top. Basically, everybody here with a perfect score is cheating. This person with 1 point short is obviously cheating. And then pretty much all the way do you get down to let's go here. Let's keep scrolling. We'll get down to where I usually look for where Liv Dilly is. Okay, so Liv Dilly's here. This score that's just above him could be legit. D-Money I believe is legit. I think a lot of these guys are legitimate actually. But when you get to right here, is where this and up is cheated. So what's interesting is how close they were able to get to 220, which is basically unachievable in every DV. But yeah, about 216 here, and then these people are all using a method to cheat, and hopefully this gets looked at A couple DVs ago, I saw a cheater still in the top 100 after they banned a bunch of people, and I just don't like that it takes them 2 weeks to do the investigation, quote unquote, when they know who's obviously cheating and should just ban them immediately. Um, and I think they should just ban their account. I don't think that they should let them, because they're not even using like the same like client, I believe, that we're using. They're using some kind of cheated client. So like I don't understand why, if anybody does that, if anybody doesn't use the actual client that you get from iOS or Google Play or whatever other platforms it's available on, you should just be banned immediately if you're caught using that. I don't understand like what the problem is here. It's not like these people use these accounts to actually buy units anyway. They and it sucks that you have this Dark Visions up for 2 weeks after it's finished, and every time you come in here to try to look at your rank, you always have to like subtract 40 from whatever you're at. And then they almost always never do anything to catch anybody who's cheating below this level. So like once you um, get yourself with that thing and you can set how much damage you do, you can set yourself up to do like to get like 112th place, and then like we'll never know if you got caught or not. Um, and I don't know, it's just really not reassuring, and it leads to bad tastes in the mouth of everybody who actually puts the time in to do this crap, especially this week, considering, or these last 2 weeks, considering how many rolls against RNG you have to do in this stupid freaking garbage DV. Um, like I could have spent 80 more hours or whatever it is, and like 1,000 energy pots or whatever, however long it would have taken to manually re-roll like so many more times and maybe gotten into top 500. But it's just not worth it. It's not worth the lapis. At some point, I'm better off spending like $20 and buying the lapis, the difference that I would get from 500 to 1,000, and just taking all my time back, right? And that's kind of silly. So even when you have a DV like this, where it's double, triple RNG, um, to not take care of the cheaters and to not have anybody know where they're at or even be able to adjust, like they should ban them after week 1, and then they should ban them again like within a couple of days of it closing, so you can at least look at your ranking and see where you were. And you don't know, like you don't even know how many places you have to overshoot. It just throws everything off. If there was a zero tolerance policy, which there should be, then you would never really have to guess about how many ranks do I have to go ahead of where I want to finish, to actually finish there. It's just, and you can't see the top 2,000. You can only see the top 100. So I don't know. It's one of the things that discourages people from participating in DV, and I feel like the JP probably handles it way better than Global does. I'd need somebody who plays JP to confirm that for me, but yeah, I mean, that's where we're at, right? So this is like the first DV in forever where I actually thought, oh, I might be able to finish in the top 500. And of course, I couldn't, because there's just too much, RNGs, and I'm not going to set up a macro to farm for like, 10 days. Um, but even then, like, to have to guess how many spots in front of us are going to get banned, and then like try to land there, it's just too much trouble. These aren't shareable, I still think is kind of a mistake. But I get the argument that like, well, this is where whales really get to whale themselves out, and that's fine. As long as like as long as DV doesn't warp the game away from, and it doesn't become like a super win war thing, which it wouldn't be if they just gave us the correct amount of DV rewards, the dark matter that we missed out on from JP when they took like 18 extra months to give us the buff to the rewards. It wouldn't be a big deal. Everybody would have their katana and sword, and nobody would really be upset about it. But I just feel bad for people that don't have both weapons yet, and like they're probably not anywhere near closer to getting either one, because even if they could have had a good round this week, they're screwed by not having Riku, or not having Looming Wrath, or not having her at EX3 or level 130 or whatever. So yeah, same old. Gumi kind of dropping the ball on this one. And if you don't like these kinds of Clash of Wills, I'd say strap in, because I believe there's a couple more coming. I don't know if it's 2 in a row, but there's at least one more where water is usable, and the same strat is usable, I think. Again, I don't play there, but I was just looking at it, and I watched some people who do play GP and review JP content here and there. And yeah, this is going to come up again. So unless Global does something to the counter meta or Riku the unit herself, or you know does something to the boss so that it doesn't let this happen, this is going to happen again, and nobody's going to enjoy DV at all. So yeah, there you go. One other thing that we got to kind of make up for the lack of content in general this week is we did get the last 12 types takedown fight here, the Iron Giant. I still have to do the two hardest ones. Um, but yeah, this is the probably easiest on launch that we've had. I think that maybe Arceovius was pretty simple. Yeah, I'd have to do this fight again to like get a gauge on how difficult this was. I don't think it was that hard. Yeah, so it's definitely going to be if you, especially if you have like a, say you have like a new account. Oh, did I not have that cleared? What was that at the bottom? Oh yeah, don't have an achievement here. Oh, it's a 5-star select ticket. Who cares? So yeah, I mean, like even with this one, you have to have like a party and like ice resist, and then don't do this on this turn or whatever. So Iron Giant is quite literally the easiest one we've gotten. I can actually say that with confidence now that I look back. You basically just take Mazurka and then good units. I don't even know if I was still my party up for it that I used. Okay, here we go. I wanted to see how easy this could be. So I took Mazurka, and then I took Amp that didn't even match my DPS's best element, and I still was able to do it in 12 turns without even like trying. So basically what you do is you bring in Mazurka, and every turn she has Nephesite built in, and she has a 2-stack evasion built in to her kit. So you just do her evasion. Where is it? Yeah, this one, emotional slash. You do this evasion, you triple attack, you do evasion, and then double Nephesite every turn. And the boss will do his physical attacks, which you'll evade, and then he'll double cast Meteor on you, which the first one blows up he does something to blow up Nephesite, and then the cast comes, and then if you have a second Nephesite up, it just Nephesites it anyway. And then you are free to just do whatever damage to the boss you want. I brought my EX1 Hano for Human Rune. I could have brought better Human Killer here. I could have put in Sakiko for better light support and went full light in this. I could have put in something that's easier to chain with 2B. Like I could have put in like Chizuru or something in this slot. There's all sorts of stuff you could do. You could bring whatever you want. The boss is not weak to any specific element. He's weak. He's got the same resist to every element. So you can literally bring whatever you want. And then like I said, Mazurka invalidates this. If you have the ability to bring any other unit that can do the same thing, that can put a 2 or higher stack of evasion on your party and then double Nephesite in a single turn, you can use them instead. And it's that easy to do. So like the one piece of content we got, it's nice to have a super easy 12 types, but it's hilarious that it was the last one to come, and then Human Killer is actually our most abundant killer. And we didn't even get a recipe to make man-eaters off of this, which is kind of... Oh, yeah, we did. Okay. What does it take to make a man-eater? Oh, no. Yeah, this is not a recipe. We only got a recipe for man-eater plus. So we don't have any actual recipe to craft man-eater material, which you normally would, so that you could make as many pluses as you could. So like Stone Killer plus, Knock'em Killer plus, and all that. But we don't have like Man Killer plus. We don't have anything like that doesn't exist. And then the man-eater materia... there's a limited amount. Again, it doesn't matter too much because you can get unlimited Human Killer material from plenty of other sources, including STMRs. But it's kind of interesting that they did it that way. I don't know why they would do it that way, but there it is. Oh yeah, we got a raid. It's a raid. Bring FF5 units. Auto attack. You win. There's an exploration where there's no items to be found. No idea why it's even an explanation. You just walk up the bridge from FF5 and fight units in a row. They could have just made this like a 10-stage battle or something instead, but I don't know. There it is, right? So yeah, really odd week. not much else to talk about. So what we'll do is we'll just take a look at the news for tomorrow, as we do on the very very thin weeks where we don't have more than like 15 minutes worth of stuff to talk about. We got some more information on the Clash boss. Nothing crazy, so we won't even bother with that. I just want to talk about the new unit, because she has the potential to be the first unit worth pulling on in this calendar year. And they made a point to mention that should be the case in the live stream on Sunday, which we don't cover anymore because of the BS. But I was watching a review of it, and shout outs to Beige Carpet. Always check out Beige Carpet after every live stream. It's way better to watch than the actual live stream. But they mentioned that they definitely cut down on the BS up front on this, and it was a much shorter stream. It was only like 45 minutes, I think, instead of an hour 20 with that like 30 minutes of garbage games up front that nobody cares about. And it was interesting that they didn't try to move it back a day because in the United States there's a big sporting event that 100 million people watch. Roughly 100 million. It's less than 100 million, but it's not that big of an event when you think about like globally, like the Olympics or the World Cup or something like that. But it is a huge deal over here, and most people in Canada and Mexico watch it as well. Some people in Europe watch it, although it's it usually starts at midnight for them over there, so or later. Or it could start actually even later if it's in the west part of the state, which it might have been. I don't know where it even was this year. I don't really watch that sport. I watch European sports anyway, and Australian sports. So like it didn't affect me. It wouldn't have changed anything. But I not so naive to say that like 90% of the people who were watching the live stream probably had it on their phone or to the side and weren't actually listening because of that. So I mean, I don't know if that speaks to lack of awareness from that squad or not. I'm assuming that with a more aware community team, they would have probably done it the day before, or maybe they're just hard locked because it's Monday morning in Japan, so that's when they're going to do it, no matter what's happening. I mean, I don't know, who knows? But they definitely line it up so that it's not going to hit like a holiday week, and who knows? But yeah, the new unit. Let's go over here and take a look at Master Machinist Abigail. So they specifically said on the live stream that she has 85% mitigation. So that's a very, very important thing. And I'll talk about that in a second, because we had an interesting conversation where I think some things got lost in translation today in some Discords, but people still don't seem to quite understand how important that is. Now, if you watch like any creator that does like clears that are easily to copy, you're definitely going to remember that there's a reason where like basically no physical tank since Renda has done any content. When you need an actual tank that can absorb damage. Outside of maybe like Jack 2 is like a side grade or slight upgrade from Renda. And there's a reason for that, and that is the mitigation. So we'll talk about that in a minute, but let's just talk about her other stuff first, and then we'll talk about the tank situation at the end. So, assuming she has that stuff and it's all good, she's definitely gonna be worth pulling because, she comes with a card. The card is also very good. The only issue with the card is it's totally replaceable if you already have the Defender's card, or you already have Jack's EX3 card. This card doesn't do a whole lot more for you. It does give you 500 Spirit as opposed to defense on Jack's card. But like the conversation I was trying to have today with some of my peers was that that's not really what matters. So like 500 Spirit or 500 defense on a tank of the opposite qualification. So like Spirit on a physical tank and vice versa. Not really that big of a deal, because they're already going to have like 7, 8, 9, 10,000 of their stat anyway. And what really stops them from taking damage is that mitigation from their abilities. And we'll talk, like, again, we'll discuss that at the end. So like what really matters about this card is the HP that's going to come on it. I think it's 2k HP, and that can be multiplicative with the right gear. And she has a lot of these extra tags. She has the breaker tag, she has the buffer tag, and she has the magic tank tag, which lets her equip some really good gear, especially with a lot of extra HP on it. So like she could have weak stats, but the extra HP along with 85 mitigation could still make her a top tier tank for sure. One of Chow's biggest issues is that he doesn't have good mitigation and he doesn't have good base HP, and can't wear some of the best gear to get his HP up. Um, so that's kind of like where we're coming from here. So if for whatever reason she doesn't have that mitigation at 100% uptime, where once she gets it going, she can keep it up on every turn, that's going to probably lower her value to a very severe extreme. So that's why I'm not committing to saying, oh my God, she's amazing. Like, let's pull, because, they told us that she has 85 mitigation, but they wouldn't confirm if it's on her SLB or, like that her SLB will be, refresh. It's kind of interesting. Like, we'll take a look at the unit in a second. But just to say that even if she didn't get that, would you still go up this banner for the card? Personally, I would not if I already had the Defender's card or if I already had Jex card, which I do have Jex card. So I wouldn't do it. But if you don't have either of those two cards and you're lacking like a really good tank card with like, 2k HP on it, or maybe say you don't have Power Cut, maybe you started after Power Cut was available, then yeah, this is probably worth 28k even if she doesn't have 100% 85 mitigation uptime. She does have it in some capacity, so with her combined with some of the units that can give you 85 mit for like a few turns, you can probably still slot her into most fights. And, in theory, you might be able to add, if say she has it for like 3 turns or whatever, and then you miss a turn, you can probably go to any fight that's less than 10 turns with her and other units that have like a one-off give everybody mitigation type ability. There's a couple units that have Magnuses that do it too. And you'd be okay, and then with this card, you'd be extra okay. But again, it's just kind of like this new normal where they're so scared to make a unit that's going to be meta and last for like 6+ months. And so we got to have that in the back of our heads. We got to make sure when the game launches tomorrow that you open this up, you go into the summon like we did when we looked at Gilgamesh right there. Open up the max stats, look at the abilities, read all of them, and make sure that you can see that, or go on Reddit or Discord or whoever you talk to, and make sure that somebody that is trustworthy has confirmed that yes, she has 100% uptime, 85 mitigation. Because if you have Runda and you have a good card already, this is probably not the best use of 46k Lapis. Especially when there's been so many bad weeks in a row. This is a prime time to save up Lapis. Like, I think after Cecil and Ayaka, I was down to like 40 something or less, maybe even. And I have not spent a dime in the game since Ginger Buff Man. And even before then, I was only getting like I was spending like $6 US dollars a month for the monthly Lapis thing, like the Fountain of Lapis. So I had already cut myself off quite a bit. Like once I hit 100k for Nier, I was like satisfied, and then I ended up with like 200k for Nier by the time Nier came around. So yeah, I mean, you can really rack up Lapis if you don't need any of this stuff, and you can get by without it. So definitely, treat this banner like you would treat any other banner. Do the analysis, figure out if it's right for your account, figure out if the card is really worth it. Maybe you need that card, you spike one on the way up. Maybe it's worth burning the resources to get her to EX2, so you could at least make sure that you're only missing like one turn of mitigation, or like at least your 85 mitigation is safe with like a Sylvie or something until it comes off. But if it is on her LB, the one downfall is you're going to need to probably try to get her EX3 as fast as possible. But with the limited frag dungeon, that's a much easier look to do now. So you could probably, if you get a couple extra copies, you might be able to take her all the way to EX3 with only a couple extra copies, which would be really nice. And that's the way it already works with Runda. So I'm I'm 90% sure that's where they're going to put the 85 mitigation and make it 100% uptime. But you never know. Gumi has done sillier things and stupider things in the past with no explanation as to why. Pissed off the community, got people to quit, stop spending. Like, it happens. So just be very careful on Thursday. Don't just rip your polls. Go in there and take a look. Make sure it looks good, or do your research on in the community and make sure the community has already like looked at the data mine or looked at the unit and gone, hey, yeah, this works. She's like Runda and all that. And then hey, to the moon, right? I mean, I'm definitely gonna pull if that's the case, just because she's got good support as well. So this is the one key thing to talk about with her. She's definitely got good support. Now, here's the thing, right? So when they show you these abilities on the cards, they don't tell you enough about what this ability actually does. So like Super Limit Burst reduces all this, blah 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 blah, and then she also has racial mitigations, which are really cool, and they're going to tie into the Clash boss, of course, Aqua and Insect. But like again, you don't see where her 85 mitigation is. The only reason we even know that she has 85 mitigation somewhere is because on the live stream they made it a point to say that she does have that. And I mean, I don't know, like if it's on one of these abilities, that's, so like say it's on this ability, right? Like this methodical mitigation. Say this 85% is here, right? We don't know how many turns this is, lasting for. We see that it comes off of cooldown every 4. But what if this only lasts for 2 or 3 turns? Then she doesn't have 100% uptime. If this is her only way to get 85 mitigation, who knows? And that's just the thing. We just don't know. So we could absolutely get bamboozled. Don't get fooled again by Gumi here. Make sure that this works out. Her gear is kind of interesting. I like her items. I mean, it's unfortunate to have another weapon. This isn't bad. Absa Staff is still better than this, though, so that's kind of weird. It's kind of awkward, but, she gets her own accessory that's, interesting in that it fills morale. The problem is that once you go outside of Clash, you're going to be equipping, like, old TMRs that give more all resist than this. There's a bunch of them that give 30%, so... her gear is interesting, but again, they didn't push it hard enough to, get you there. If for whatever reason you need to use Absa Staff on someone else, this staff actually, or this rod actually ends up, or staff, is it rod or staff? Yeah, it's a staff. The staff actually ends up being pretty good because it's got this 100% spirit and dual hand and all that. But it's going to be weird when I guess you'd have to take it'd have to be a fight where you need to have a physical and magical tank at the same time. But in that case, the other tank could wear the Absa Staff, and then she could wear this. It's just a weird kind of thing. 1,000 spirits, not even really that good. If it was like 1,000 HP plus 1,000 HP base, that's pretty awesome. You still might want to use it in certain fights where like the Absa Staff stuff is not relevant, and then you want an extra 1k HP. And then you get 100 HP and 100% dual hand spirit off of it for free, so that might be frees up some materia slots. So there's going to be some fights where you probably want to use this stick instead of the Absa Staff, but it's just kind of weird that like this unit may be the biggest pull outside of Anniversary for the first half of the year, and they didn't bother to like make sure. Not only did they give her a weapon STMR, which we don't need, but they didn't push it to the point where like it's an obvious, like. If she's going to be your tank, definitely she's picking this over the Absa Staff. And then maybe, if Chow or whoever else is coming to be your tank, they're going to pick the Absa Staff plus, right? So who knows? I don't know. But yeah, other than that, looking good. High potential. The support is there from the looks of it. The question is just going to be, she's got all this extra morale fill and stuff. She's got morale fill abilities. The question is going to be, where's that 85 mitigation at, and is it 100% uptime? And let's talk about exactly why that's so important now that we've, kind of discussed that base level. I'm going to pull up Runda here. Okay, so Runda at EX3, his SLB. Oops, sorry, we got a hold on him. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Slide this over. Okay, so this is 85 mit to both physical and magic for all allies. And then also 85 damage reduction. And then it also LB fills, which is like totally unnecessary, but really cool to have, right? So now if you have EX3 Runda, which is absolutely free, all you have to do is play through the story. You have access to this, and he comes with a bunch of really good gear for only turns on himself. He's got his own shield that's really good. You can put the Absa Staff in the main hand. He's got a couple accessories that are really good on him. He can equip any, immunity item or whatever. He's very easy to gear. He also has bolting strike chain. He's not going to contribute any damage or much support really, but he definitely just tanks it up. There's been fights with magical damage where like you could still bring him without the spirit and with his HP and all that, and this reducing magic damage as well with 100% uptime. Like as long as you just use his SLB as soon as it's up and you survive those first 2 turns, you're in good shape. And then also if you look at his regular LB, it does the exact same thing, but for 80. And this is very important because most tanks in the game, the tanks that are at that like second tier, they don't even have 80 100% uptime. They have 75. And that's huge. And I think what most people don't understand about this is the math. You look at 75 versus 85 and you think, oh, it's only 10%. It's not that bad. My unit's going to take 10% more damage. That's not how math works on that higher level at all. Okay, so the way that the damage is calculated is an equation. It's an algorithm, typically. And just to not dive super deep into math there, but there's a lot of things getting inserted in here. So when you take this whole giant number and then you add in an 85% reduction somewhere in that algorithm, if depending on where it's at, even if it's on the anywhere that's not on the outside of the entire damage calculation, it is going to reduce that by an exponentially higher amount of value. So like if the base damage is where this goes into the equation, all of a sudden every multiplier on the base damage that comes after it is absolutely hella nerfed down even harder than it would be. Okay? Or even if it's on the outside of the damage calculation, and I'm not going to claim to know which, but I will tell you this. The difference between 85 and 75 MIT is like you're going to be able to clear like certain Clash of Wills with like 1 in 10 rolls on variants when your tank only has 75 mitigation, or like other party members that they're covering are going to die, whatever. So here you go. Outside of that equation, taking 10% less damage when the damage is potentially like hundreds of thousands of points of damage and your guys only have like 40,000 HP, I mean, that is literally the difference between like if you're going to take 140,000 damage, you take 10% less than that. It's not that big of a deal. But if you get towards that bottom tier where like, okay, my tank with 85% mit's going to survive with like 3,000 HP and be able to heal up and then, get a turn to recover. But then a tank with 75 mit is just going to die. So again, even if the math doesn't favor the higher percentage mitigation and get inserted into the algorithm where it reduces damage by so much more, even if that's not the case, still on the outside of the equation where like everything's in parentheses and then at the end, finished damage calculation reduce it by 85%. We definitely would still be in a better spot for tanks. And we kind of know it doesn't work that way because if it did work that way, like you would have like 500k hits all the time from regular bosses. So like this mitigation goes into the algorithm before all of the damage is calculated. It definitely does somewhere. But like even if it didn't, my point is that even if it didn't, we would still want that higher percentage because the difference between 85 and 75 would be some fights you couldn't even clear at all. As opposed to right now, most fights you can try to clear with a 75% tank, and with enough whaled out gear and good rolls, you'll be able to clear it. But why do you want to go into Clash of Wills or or like a new trial if we ever get anything new that it's actually difficult, and or some of the older 12 types that are a little bit heavier? Why would you want to go in there with a team and a strategy that no matter how perfectly you play it, no matter how well you're geared, 9 times out of 10 you're going to lose and have to re-roll? You just wouldn't want to do that. You would just want to take a better unit that says, okay, if I follow my strat, it has enough mitigation to take all this damage, and then I go from there and I win. So the reason this is so pivotal is because there's so few units that have the ability to do it, and that there's too many of our top tier fights are tuned towards it. Most of our clashes are tuned towards this. It's very difficult to have Lilith tank a physical Clash of Wills. It was almost impossible to have anything tank Ginger Buff Man. You know, and then it was also ridiculously difficult to deal damage to them, and he healed. Like, you know, they do stuff like this all the time. That's why you want units that are so good that they can still get you through a huge mistake from the boss design team, because they make huge mistakes all the time. I think we had like, was it like 12 or 13 clashes in a row where they had to, where there was either a bug with the clash or they had to nerf it in the middle, or both. I'd have to go back and look, but it almost was a year long, or maybe it was over a year long when that was the case. And you could argue the Ginger Buff Man was bugged as well. So let's shift over here, and then we'll take a look at Cecil. And let me see if I can just find. He casts an 80% mitt for just magic automatically, which is again higher than most tanks base. Then he has a 75 cooldown, which only lasts for 2 turns, but it's a 5-turn cooldown. So this is what could happen with our new unit, right? And then he has, let me see if I can find his other. This is Omni Cover. Yeah. So he has Omni Cover with a 90% mitt for a single turn. Again, doesn't really solve your tanking issue, but if you know what turn the boss is going to blast you on, this works really well. And then, let's see. He doesn't actually have it either, does he? I'm trying to find. Okay. Oh yeah, yeah. All right, and then he only has 75 on his LB as well. So even Cecil is behind the 8 ball when it comes to this. When it comes to, like, you know, what we saw with Runda, right? So now with him, if you're able to fill his LB, you know, every 4 turns, you can keep up 75% to both. But the problem is, you know, this on some bosses will get you killed quite easily. And again, so here's an example of one of the best tanks in the game, and even he doesn't have, you know, 100% uptime for 85% mitt to both physical and magic, right? And, you know, how are we going to get there to that next echelon? I mean, I don't know. There is a possibility that the unit could have something similar to this, you know, kit, and then it's not going to push Cecil out. But then if you already have Cecil, you have to look at the support of the new unit, and Abigail, right, is her name. You have to look at the support of the new unit and see if that support is good enough to warrant, you know, pulling on her. You know, even with her racial mitigation, it might be not worth it after this Clash of Wills to have her if you already have Cecil. If she has a similar, you know, set of stuff. What is let me take a look real quick at Shelga. Yeah, Shelga's 75. That's what I thought. So even with Protecta and Shelga, you have 75. And it's very awkward that a lot of these tanks don't have higher than 75 because you can just cast that with a spell. You know, it's weird, right? I mean, now there's going to be times when you can't use magic. When you have enough of sight up and you need to absorb it or something like that. You know. But yeah, it's definitely a weird thing to have, you know, such a very, very important thing for tanks to have, that it seems like Clash of Wills bosses specifically are getting designed around, and to have so few units with the tools to handle that. So I think what they really should do is just go ahead and give us another 100% uptime unit to go along with Runda. It especially makes sense because she's a magic tank and Runda's a physical tank. So, like, even though their mitt is for both, if they just give her 85 magic mitt, she's still going to be pretty good and usable, because you're going to want to take Runda to physical fights anyway, unless, you know, her support is so good that it doesn't matter and you might want to replace her. But I don't know, we'll see. It's up in the air. We'll have to wait till tomorrow. Hopefully you guys had a good week this week. I had a mediocre week. It was all right. Yeah, we're not going to be doing anything after this stream tonight. We're going to just be kind of going to recover. I went to the doctor today, and I'm tired, so I'm going to go lay down. But we will be back on Saturday. Yeah, I think I'll be back on Saturday during the day. Not sure about at night. And we will be running Final Fantasy IV free enterprise. So if you're a Final Fantasy fan and you want to see some cool randomizer action, you can come hang out with me then. Um, and then next week we will be playing some Last Epoch, and we will be playing um, Mass Effect 3. So we're going to start that playthrough potentially on Sunday this week, but we might wait till Monday to kick that off because we might do more Final Fantasy IV on Sunday. We'll have to wait and see. And then Last Epoch multiplayer free weekend, I believe, is next weekend. Not this weekend, but the last weekend in the month of February. So the 24 through 26th, I believe. So we'll definitely be hitting that hard. So if you want to check out any of that stuff, you want to see this show recorded live, please check out the link in the description below. It is to my Twitch channel where we record all this stuff live. And all my links and information and schedule are all over on that page. You just scroll on down below the stream and check out the panels. Everything is in there. Once again, thanks everybody for coming on by and hanging out with me for another week. And hopefully everything looks good tomorrow, and we'll have some nice pulls. If everything looks good, I'm probably tomorrow. I will probably go live and stream my pulls. So if things look good, come on by the Twitch channel tomorrow. Probably sometime in the afternoon, 3-4 p.m. ish, around there. Because my footy match will be over by about 3 o'clock. So 3 p.m. Eastern Standard for North America. Come on by after 3 p.m. We're gonna probably do the polls tomorrow. If she has 85 mid 100% uptime. If she doesn't, we're probably gonna be skipping. So we'll see. But yeah, hope to see you guys next week on This Week in Brave Exvius. You take care, and don't ride elephants.